Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening of the 27th of October 2020. My name is Juliet Luwedde. I'm from Uganda. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone, wherever you're joining us from. Again, my name is Juliet Luwedde. So for this conversation, we are having two amazing land heroes who participated in our call for land heroes under UNCCD. And today we are going to be talking about art. What role does art play when it comes to issues of conservation or land? How do we actually get to talk about art at the same time when we are saying we are talking about desertification or when we are talking about land? So today I have two amazing panelists, Ibrahim and David, who have joined us. Ibrahim is an environmentalist, and then also David is from Zambia. So they're joining us today to have a little chat with us and share with us their experience and how they are using this soft skill of art as a tool of activism. We are also joined by Marcos from the NGO Civil Society Unit of UNCCD, who will briefly tell us about UNCCD, what role do young people play, how can we actively support his office, and how can they also support the young people to actually take lead in the process and procedures of land. To start us off, I want to remind you all that we'll be using our comment section in case you have questions, in case you have any comments, or in case you have any contributions that you want to add to this conversation. Feel free to type in our chat below in our Facebook stream. We are live on Facebook and Twitter as well. Maybe the other thing just to remind us is that this is our 6th webinar. So since the call for the Land Heroes, when it happened in March, when we went into lockdown, the Land Heroes were selected, young people were identified, and different conversations have been ongoing. So this is our 6th and final webinar in this series of the Land Heroes, but specifically for young people, where young people have been sharing their ideas and talking about different aspects in relation to land and desertification. At this moment, allow me to invite Marcos to give us his opening remarks. Over to you, Marcos.
Thank you so much, Juliet, and thank you so much for participating, and David and Ibrahim, in our last webinar with the UNCCD Land Heroes. I'm very blessed to be part of this for closing the circle that we initiated, as you mentioned, Juliet, in March. And now we are bringing over this really exciting last webinar on a topic that is really amazing, talking about art and how art can help us connecting human with environment. The Secretariat has been working on this and try to involve artists in the work that we are doing. I think it's a very good way of helping raising awareness using some non-usual ways of working. So allow me to tell you just a little bit what we did with the Secretariat. We were working in the past with UNESCO, trying, for example, to bring have some elements for teachers to teach the problem of desertification, land degradation, and drought using an artistic approach. So a kit was specifically prepared on that. We are also working, as you know, with our amazing land ambassadors. 3 of them are very well-known musicians: Baba Mal, Inamoja, Ricky Cage. We are also working with other musicians and supporting this music festival here in Bonn with Over the Border. And another example that I can give you also to set a bit what we have been doing is an initiative together with our sister convention on climate change on Artists for Climate. This was just before Paris, and we had the opportunity together with Christie's to auction some artwork made by amazing artists, and the funds were used to support programs on the ground to combat land degradation, desertification, and drought, at the same time tackling the problem of climate change, and of course supporting the protection of the biodiversity. So I'm really looking forward to this exciting webinar and to see what David and Ibrahim have been doing on how we can connect us humans with nature, how we can protect the land, and how we can also rehabilitate it. Thank you so much, and I'm really looking forward for this discussion. Juliet, back to you.
Thank you very much, Marcos, for that wonderful introduction and that brief background that you've given us right now. Maybe just a little bit to tell you about why we are here and why young people and why Land Heroes. So as earlier mentioned, my name is Juliet Grace, and I'm the interim facilitator for the Youth Caucus on Desertification and Land. In 2019, we had a conversation with the Secretariat with support from Marcos, and the conversation was really around how do we get young people to actively be a part of desertification and land issues? How do we get their voices added on to the many voices of people out there that are doing amazing work? How do we highlight the work that young people are doing? How do we also support Secretariat? And that's how the Youth Caucus was formed. So today, after this conversation, you're all invited to join the Youth Caucus because we want as many young people out there who are doing amazing work to join this Youth Caucus and contribute to the voice of the young people out there, because I understand and I'm very confident that the voices of young people are very important and are key to these conversations that we have. In this moment, allow me to invite David Chapoloko. Forgive me if I pronounce that wrongly, to briefly introduce himself and in 3 minutes tell us about his work. David, if you could kindly let our viewers know about you and the kind of work that you're doing back home in Zambia.
All right. Thank you so much, moderator, for that wonderful presentation. I'm so excited to be given this opportunity to speak at this webinar, and especially on the topic, which is connecting human beings with nature. I think that the topic itself talks about two things that I'm basically really passionate about. The aspect of nature. Myself, I am a creative, and also the aspect of nature. In Zambia, if we have viewers here from Zambia, I know we have a couple of them. They'll tell you to say they like to call me Mr. Greens. That's the name that they like to call me because I talk so much about nature and I talk so much about trees. Okay, so I have been an advocate for some time for the environment, and it's not something that I started recently. By the way, I hold a bachelor's of science degree in forestry, and also I hold a diploma in agronomy from Israel. So I'm an agronomist and I'm a forester as well at the same time. I didn't just wake up to become a forester. It's something that I've been passionate for some time. I grew up from a township that is called Ron here in Zambia, where it is a mining township, and we used to receive a lot of fumes coming from the mines, and people couldn't say about anything about it. So I was like, I think when I grow up, I need to become the voice of the people with regards to the environment. And I think by that time I was 12 years of age. So I grew up like that, and I just developed this passion into the environment. And here I am. I became a forester, and whatever I'm doing. Besides that, one of my first stages, I opened an NGO called Passion for Greens, which is operating here in Zambia, where we actually, what we are basically doing is that we are advocating for the environment. But that's not it. Later in life, I realized to say I'm doing my advocacy, and I am also a creative. By the way, I do a lot of art. I was born an artist. I've never learned art from anywhere. It's just something within me. So at a later time, I later realized that if there could be a way that I would combine my God-given talent, which is art, and also my advocacy, and try to use my creativity to solve environmental problems. And that is how I came up with an initiative that I'm calling Art for Climate Zambia. So at Art for Climate Zambia, what we're basically doing is that we're trying to make pieces of art from litter. I think I'll be kind enough to share with you some of the work that I'm basically doing at Art for Climate Zambia. So if you can see my screen here, I have with me a zebra. This zebra that you see here, it is the litter that people throw to the environment, okay? So people dispose litter, and I'm like, no, people are disposing litter carelessly because it's something that is useless. But how about if we made something useful out of litter? So I started making sculptures. I started picking litter with the kids in the community. It was exciting. We could go there, do a bit of some campaign that we used to call Keep Lunsha a plastic litter free zone. And after we picked the litter, we used to make these amazing pieces of art. You can see this zebra. This zebra has got in it about 76 kgs of litter. Like you can see here, we've got an elephant, which is 97 kgs of litter. As you can see here, we've got an antelope, which is 58 kgs of litter, and we have a lion cub, which is 57 kgs of litter, all from the litter that we collect right from the environment. So basically, that is what I'm doing as for me and my work here in Zambia. Over to you, moderator.
Thank you very much, David. As you all can see, it took David passion to realize that, oh, what can I do with the passion that I have? He saw an opportunity within a challenge that was within his community. For him, when he saw litter, he did not see anything that was beyond repair. When he saw litter, he saw an opportunity, and the opportunity for him, what he saw is, what can I make with this litter? And he's now making sculptures out of this litter. And I believe so many young people in Zambia are actually looking at the litter that he has, the beautiful artifacts that he has created out of this litter, and many of them want to be like David. What can you do with the passions that you have? You might be out there and you're an artist, but then how do you use your art to also contribute to activism? Thank you very much, David, for those wonderful insights. At this moment, allow me to also invite Ibrahim to also explain to us about his work and his background and what exactly inspires him to use art as a form of activism. Ibrahim?
Juliet, I'm super delighted to be here to discuss on how art can be a powerful tool to reconnect humans. Actually, my journey started while I was very small, when I was a kid. As I was growing up, I grew up in Nigeria after that environmental abuse. At that age, precisely while I was 7 years, so I had this great passion, this great enthusiasm that if I grow up, I would like to be a voice for the environment. I would like to be an environmental advocate. So while I was growing up, in secondary school, I was so good at geography. So, and geography is a course that really exposed me to a lot of environmental issues theoretically. So while I applied for university, I applied for geography and environmental management at the University of Abuja, Nigeria. Unfortunately, I was given to understand that theoretical thing that relates to the environment, just like desertification, to some of the challenges of the environment. It was as a result of the course I studied that I began to know much about the environment. This knowledge that I've gotten into a life program where I can be able to give plausible advice on how we can maintain our environment, how we can keep our environment safe, and how we can reduce some of these deforestation. A lot of people cut trees and they don't really know why they cut trees, just for firewood and so much others. But I tend to tell people while I was in school that you don't just have to cut tree. The more you're cutting, you should also try to recompensate by planting more. It's very important. Environment, a ULED organization, which is fostering that environmental consciousness, because it is very important. It is very important that if you can have
Thank you very much, Ibrahim, for that wonderful insight and those wonderful contributions. Again, I'd like to remind the people that are watching us live on Facebook, please use and utilize the chat box right under there. If you have any questions or if you have any contributions, what are you doing when it comes to activism? What kind of role are you playing? Are you also an artist like David and Ibrahim? Are you drawing? Are you also making sculptures? Share your work with us and allow for the world to see what you're doing, because I understand that we are all playing little roles, however small they are, they're actually contributing a lot when it comes to us saving our environment. Maybe just to now jump right back to you, David and Ibrahim. My question for you this afternoon is, can you, I'll start with you, David. Can you tell us more about a project that you're doing when it comes to building greenhouses out of exploring the structure, color, and theory? Like, how do you go about this creative process? What goes into all of it? Because we've seen your work that you've done, we've seen the structures that you're doing. Are you using plastics per se? Are they plastic bottles? Is it plastic bags? What goes into your creativity when you're coming up with these different items that you make?
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to share about this, because actually, like I said, I started with sculptures. My work has been really centered on how do I look at litter as an opportunity, maybe for entrepreneurship, or not only that, as a means maybe to improve agricultural productivity. Because if the world is complaining about, rise in the amount of litter in the environment, I think if we studied litter so carefully, it can be an opportunity, to maybe be applied into agriculture or any other similar ventures. So it incited my interaction with litter. It incited me to now start exploring some of the scientific properties that we can have or obtain from litter, and see how we can use those things to actually specifically improve agricultural productivity. So I started studying the color properties of litter as part of the scientific properties, to see how generally litter can be used maybe to improve, the yield in terms of crop production in agriculture, as well as pest control. And basically my research was centered on the color properties. And later on, I realized that the major challenges that are there in agriculture, number one is pest control. The pest problem is really one issue that is affecting productivity in agriculture. So I was looking at how can you really look at litter as a solution to pest control. And another problem that I identified in agriculture was that the issue of growth and production. Maybe we are growing vegetables, maybe we are growing fruits, and most of the crops in agriculture are basically centered on that. If we are not getting vegetables out of them, we are getting fruits. So in that regard, I started studying the scientific properties of litter in terms of colors. And later on, I realized that when it comes to the issue of pest control, how pests really behave towards light is that for them to really have an environment for them to reproduce, and also for them to have an interaction with the host in order for them to invade it, they actually work well with the aid of ultraviolet rays, which comes from the sun. So I realized that if there was a way that we can really be able to interrupt the ultraviolet rays, which will have, an effect on the visual aspect of the pest, they won't be able to perform their daily activity and also interact with the host and also increase in terms of population. So I noticed that there are major colors like black and red, which have got such ultraviolet absorbing capacity in which they can be able to interrupt ultraviolet rays. And then when they interrupt the ultraviolet rays, and it will have an effect on the pest, and then the pest activity will be interrupted. And the second thing that I noticed about these colors is that we can take advantage of the color blue. Blue is very vital to the growth of the plant, especially for the vegetative growth of the plant. If we are growing vegetables and then we expose them to a blue color, they'll be able to give us a very good yield in terms of the vegetative aspect. And also, I noticed that red is also a color that is very instrumental in the formation of fruits or just reproduction of the plant. So if we are dealing with a crop whose interest we want to obtain fruits out of it, we can expose it to red. And also I noticed that another color which is very vital to the growth of the plant is indigo, which is there as a clinic or as a medicine for the plant. It is therefore giving a cure to a plant to its various diseases. So I started playing around those colors, and I realized that if I mixed colors of these litter, especially PET bottles, we made a greenhouse, a controlled environment out of litter, the bottles. And then we set it in a way that the way we mix the colors, they'll be able to give us red, they'll be able to give us blue as the ultimate color, or even other colors that will be specifically for the current problem. Is it pest control? Do we want vegetative growth? Do we want reproduction? They'll be very instrumental for that growth. So that really enticed me to start now designing and trying to make these greenhouses out of litter. And so far the experiments are going on well. I wish I could share that work, but I think in the coming webinars, I'll be really, really excited to share how we are interacting with litter and see how we can make greenhouses out of it, with hope that one day we are going to be able to make something like a plant clinic, where when we have a plant that has got a problem, we'd take it to the clinic where the ultimate color inside is indigo, and when we take our plant there, it will be able to, maybe after a week, be cured from whatever diseases it is suffering from. So that is how I'm trying to play around litter, and that is basically what I'm playing around as of now. I think this is all I can share about my color interaction and how I'm using it for making greenhouses, the research that we are currently carrying on. Over to you, moderator.
Thank you very much, David, for that wonderful insight. I understand that it's not only, I think for me, my takeaway from what you've shared is curiosity is everything. Once you're curious about something, you're always able to find a solution around it, and you can never fail at anything as long as you're passionate about and as long as your head is in the right space. I want to turn to Ibrahim right now. You're giving your time and volunteering on projects carried on by various organizations. So many young people out there are also volunteering just like you, and they're giving of their time. Can you explain to us what are some of the positive impacts of these activities on land, and how art can bring another dimension when it comes to activism?
Thank you very much, moderator. I have been able to combine art and my work on environmental activism. If you look at the screen now, this is a video, this is a picture showing how an environment which is degraded has been restored. If you look at the video critically, you will observe that there are two young people looking at a degraded land, but after some while, they thought of a way in which they can reclaim this land. This was how they were able to plant more trees, nurture them, and and these trees were able to grow big and restore. They have restored the environment. Let me say it emphatically that I actually volunteer with so many organizations so that I can be able to learn more and connect with so many people. I'm somebody who likes positive vibes. I'm very positive. So if you look at volunteering, you tend to meet a lot of people, you tend to learn from a lot of people, and you tend to share a lot of ideas. And one of the reasons why I even went into art with my environmental activism is that a single heart has the ability or the capacity to pass 1,000 messages. So a lot of people nowadays, if you send them message relating to environmental education, they tend to be tired or they tend to ignore it. But over some time, I thought of including art. And with this art that I've included in my work on activism has really enabled me to get to a lot of audience, and there's been a positive result. Going to the aspect of volunteering, I tend to understand that the little we all do, when combined all together, can create something great. So when I volunteer with organizations, I learn a lot. And one of the organizations I'm volunteering with is an organization that is based in recycling and reusing. If you look at, let me take you to the dimension of the land and the environment. If you look at waste nowadays, people dispose waste, and some of these waste have the tendency of being reused. For instance, our clothes. So one of the organizations I volunteered with, Meet You Foundation, which is based in California, it has this enthusiasm and this focus whereby people shouldn't just throw their waste away. Some of this waste could be recycled, ranging from clothes, foods, as well as food also, and so much others. So when these waste are not taken to the landfill, obviously landfill, when our waste is taken to the landfill, it's also a form of land degradation, because the land is degraded from those waste. So we think of reducing the amount of waste that goes towards the landfill and how we can help to improve the environmental advocacy, and as well as consciousness that is actually very important in making sure that everyone, they will leave no one behind. And let me state it emphatically that the issue of climate change and other environmental issues is somehow like a global common. Any action somewhere can lead to a reaction elsewhere. So I thought of when I volunteer with so many organizations, just for instance, we have plastic pollution. As we all know, plastic pollution is one of the major environmental crises we are facing. And how can we effectively get to a larger audience? By reaching out to so many people, by volunteering, by seeing how you can be a voice for the environment, by seeing how you can positively invite people to take care of the environment and be conscious of whatever they do in the environment, so that we can create a sustainable world and a desirable change. Thank you, moderator.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim. For our audience that's streaming live on Facebook, thank you very much for the comments and the questions. We are seeing them come through. Continue to send through your questions, and our panelists here today, or our young activists who are using art as a tool, will be able to ably answer them. David, there's a question here from you. Someone asks, David, do you have a short-term plan to finance your project of greenhouses? Are you looking for help? How can people contribute?
So basically, yes, I am. It's really hard as an advocate. You know, you can have these ideas, but the problem that really comes in is the aspect of finance. Okay, so as at now, yeah, for my LITA project, the sculpture project, right now it's being funded by the UNDP, of which I had to contest through the UNCCD. They shared part of my work, and UNDP Zambia was really excited. UNDP, I owe that credit to them, and they encouraged me to apply for a 4,000 grant that was allocated specifically to the sculpture project, $4,000, yes. But when it comes for the greenhouse, currently I do not have any funding. for that project, and it's something that has been dwindling the progress of the work. And so I'm calling on the stakeholders who may be interested to come through. I would really be excited to work with them and really to have this vision, come true. I want people to go and rush after litter in the streets and take them to their farms. And people will no longer throw away litter because they'll see something valuable out of it for the agricultural productivity. I want litter to be ending up in the farms and all those things. So currently, as it is, for that project, no, it's not funded. And I'm calling upon stakeholders to come on board, and I'm willing to collaborate.
Thank you very much, David. Interesting when you talk about how we can use litter as part of our agricultural practices. There's a funny joke that went around in Uganda when one of our leaders was seen using plastic bottles to actually irrigate in his farm. Many of us thought, oh, he's actually being a joke. How do you use plastics or bottles to irrigate, let's say, 1 acre of land? Isn't that wastage of time? But then in essence, what he's doing is trying to show us that, oh, you can actually reuse the plastics that you have instead of littering them or throwing them around on the road or in the streets. How about you bring them to your farms and let them do the work for you? Let them help you irrigate, because seasons have changed. So farmers have been suffering. And in essence, when you mention that you're trying to see how do we now bring plastics or litter to our farms for a good cause, I see where this person was coming from. Ibrahim, there is a question here for you as well. Someone says they love your cartoons. I also love your cartoons, honestly. And they want to find out if, because for them they are thinking they tell real stories, and that's what we are saying, because many of us get messages in different ways, and your cartoons are actually communicating. The question for you, Ibrahim, is, are you thinking of making short films too?
Oh, thank you very much. It's very important that I continue whatever I do for the environment to make sure that there's a continual progress for the environment to be able to have a sustainable on a sustainable basis. So I'm looking. It would be a welcome idea if I'll be able to use my art to create a video which will pass 1,000 message to everybody out there to know much about environment, know much about protecting the environment, and have a lot of consciousness with them. So it's a very welcome initiative. And I'm also looking at bringing a lot of artists within my country, Nigeria, from all angles, so that they can assist me in making sure that we are able to take a lot of message to the public. And also, it is not just an environmentalist or an artist who is responsible for carrying out environmental activism or education. It's an everybody function. We need to come together. We leave no one behind. And I need a lot of artists to lend me their skills and their voices, because it is very important. Our environment is facing a lot of challenges, and if we can all come together to have one common goal of saving it, it will be a brilliant option. So going into using my art to go into like video production and passing that kind of message is a very welcome idea, and I love it. Just like we have the land degradation neutrality, a lot of lands are being degraded. How can we recompensate? How can we make sure that this land that are degraded? We can restore them back. So it's a welcome idea, and I love it. It's beautiful. It's great. Thank you, moderator, for that question.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim. At the beginning, I remember during Marcos's introduction, he mentioned how at the Secretariat we are working with different celebrities who are artists to also contribute to the conversation of land and degradation and climate change. And Baba Mao is one of those people that is very actively involved and also works with young people. My next question for you, Ibrahim and David, would be, what tip would you give for young artists who want to use their voices, be it visual arts, music, or creative arts, film, to raise awareness and build a more sustainable world? I think
Okay.
David?
Okay. On my side, one thing that I know about creatives, okay, I'll talk about it from an aspect of advocacy, and also from an from an aspect of entrepreneurship. You know, one thing that I know about creatives, people who are into artistical work, is that I think they are the only people that are born employed. You know, um, when you are a creative, you are generally having that talent, you know, that at any time can turn into something, you know, tangible, and something that can even be able to sustain you. I want firstly to tell an upcoming artist out there to say, one thing that we should know is that art is one tool that we can use to influence the world. The world has got trends. Right now, the world is into beautiful things. The world wants to see things that are beautiful, starting from communication, technology, from infrastructure and everything. We want to see beautiful buildings. You know, we want to see beautiful fashion. We want to see beautiful phones and beautiful everything. I think if that is the trend for the world, it is all centered. It means that it is all centered on creativity. And there's something that I like, especially when I do a piece of art. There's a reaction that people give to the art that I finish doing. Immediately I show them a piece of art, they'll be like, wow. And I'd love to use that influence of wow. Why people do that is that it fascinates them. And that is the influence enough that we can use to change the world. If I can pick litter from the environment and make something, litter that was regarded to be something useless, and I make something beautiful, and people say, wow. And then I capitalize on the wow and tell them to say the thing that you actually wowed at, it was the litter that you disposed in the environment. It is something that has turned into something beautiful. Okay? People will start being encouraged to say they can now take an advantage at the problems that we are currently facing environmentally and use them as an opportunity. And especially if we added the God-given talents that we have, the creativity, use the influence of creativity to solve those problems, I think we can change the world. And then I'm both a fictional artist and a real artist on realistic work. And there's something that I've learned about the art. Every artist, the inspiration that they get from the art that they do is from nature. Every piece of art that you see, the inspiration is drawn from nature. There's no way you can draw something that people can't relate. The best art is those that the inspiration is from nature and you use it to portray a message and relate to the people who are able to appreciate your art. And so this is something that I do. I make sculptures out of things that we can basically find in nature, like an elephant, zebra, and all those things. And when people look at that, the first thing they'll be fascinated. When they are fascinated, I'll tell them to say, I use litter. And once they see the piece of art, it will remind them of an elephant wildlife, which is being endangered species in the game parks out there. So there's always that linkage, and we can capitalize on the creativity, the influence that is there in creativity to connect human beings with nature. And I think that if a young entrepreneur out there who is also a creative, art is one venture that you can start looking at it. I think this time in a different way. If you used to look at it as trash, an entrepreneur always has to see an opportunity in the problem that is being created and try to turn it out into a solution. I don't want to put it as entirely for profit, but it is a social enterprise where we are solving a problem and we can also use it to sustain our lives, because at the end of the day, we'll need to survive. And so, like I mentioned, for me, this is just for the sake of motivation. When I started this, it was for the sake of advocacy, but there are people like UNDP who saw something and we are working together so that they ensure that it becomes an enterprise. So it's one venture. The green business is one venture that we can take advantage of and see how we can take it into a lucrative business and use it to sustain ourselves. But the biggest core is to paint the world green. Like I say, this is one of a mantra and a campaign that I like to talk about, until we paint it green. So we can use this opportunity, use your creativity, voice out. It's a lot of influence through your song, through your artistical work, through whatever form of art that you're doing. You can connect someone to nature. You can preach out the message like Ibrahim is doing, and tell the people through that influence that we need to see, we need to do something about the ongoing problems that we have in the environment. Thank you so much, moderator.
Thank you very much, David. Over to you, Ibrahim.
Thank you very much, Juliet. I would also like to add little to what David has also said. We're in a decade of action, and it's indeed evident that art is a powerful tool that connects humans with the nature. We have a lot of artists there. We have young artists who are into different forms of art, whether sculptors, movie artists, and so much more. So I think it's a collective effort. We should all try as much. We should all be influenced. We should all be motivated to see how we can be a voice for the environment. I really enjoyed the remarkable work reconnect, Inamoja, and other land ambassadors, what they are doing. They actually are not using they are not drawing cartoons, but they use what they can as an artist to see how they can put more prospect into environmental advocacy, environmental protection, and land protection, and so much more. So it's a collective effort. Whatever form of artist you are, you just try as much as possible to see how you can leverage on these remarkable skills in which you have, to see how you can develop the environment, see how you can be a voice and inspire a lot of people, because our environment is facing a lot of challenges, and it's on us to fix it. We can't just allow the environment to die. So that is basically, we need to protect the environment. Whatever form of artist you are, try as much as possible to see how you can be a voice for the environment, how you can impact positively, how you can make a desirable change, and how you can push a lot of actions to see that a land is not degraded, and how yourself you can how you can improve your environmental consciousness, because it's very important. A lot of people know that deforestation is actually not good, but they don't have that consciousness. So we need to build a consciousness. It's very important in terms of environmental protection, restoration, and reclamation. So that is it basically.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim and David. Wow, some of us are artists, but then we really never know what to use with the platforms that we've been given. You're out there, you are a poet, you're a singer, you're a writer. How can you use these skills that you have to also contribute to the conversation of activism? How do you also be a part of the movement, just like Ibrahim and David use their skill set and their passion for art to actually be also able to now communicate and also be able to save our environment and make sure that we do not lose it by the end of the day. As we close this off, I want to ask Ibrahim and David in 2 minutes just to share with us if you have any upcoming projects. How do we follow your work? Where do we find your work? How do we stay connected after this?
Okay, thank you very much, Juliet, for that wonderful question. Apparently, I'm looking into going into a project whereby I'll go to selected schools where I'll look for creative minds, artists, how I can impact them positively to be a voice for the environment, just as my initiative is doing. Because I did an outreach a few months ago, and I was so astonished. A lot of very beautiful kids are doing well in terms of artist work, but their skills have not been harnessed. So I think of inspiring them from this little age where they can be able to make good use of whatever the skills they have to fight for the environment. Also, I'm looking into having a meeting with my government in Nigeria to see how I can give plausible advice to some of these environmental problems we are having, ranging from land degradation, desertification, deforestation, and what have you. So I'm very much keen in seeing, having an outreach, going to so many schools and looking for a lot of people who are good in art so that I can inspire them, so that I can motivate them, and so that I can make sure that I have a lot of people who I've been able to motivate to go into the field of activism, environmental activism, with the kind of talent they have, which is, of course, artists, to see how we can create a desirable change and a sustainable world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Over to you, David, in 2 minutes.
Oh, all right. Oh, thank you so much. Even me, like I earlier mentioned, I want to remove that kind of thought. When you're into advocacy, people think it's all for free. You know, it's one thing that we can explore, you know, even as an entrepreneur. So there are upcoming projects currently. We are working on equipment besides the sculptures, besides the greenhouse project that I told you about. We are also trying to design, there are some equipment that are on design. We want to start making boards out of litter. Okay, one other interesting aspect, because we want to reduce pressure on timber. We don't want people to cut a lot of trees. And yeah, we want to use litter as a form of boards with hope that perhaps one day we can make a TV stand, a cardboard and other things out of other things that we can be able to explore, from litter. And not only that, we are also trying to come up with other projects such as inspiring the youngsters. So there's this project that I'm doing with about how, hello, are you getting me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes, I'm saying that there is a project that I'm doing with School for Orphans and Vulnerable Children, where I'm trying to train them using art as a form of fundraiser and as a form of advocacy to help them fundraise for their schools, and also just to support them and also to create awareness for the environment. Yeah, and if you want to find me, you can find me on Facebook, David Chapoloko. I have a Facebook account and a Facebook page, David Chapoloko, climate change activist. Or you can find me, David Chapoloko, on Instagram, as well as the same name for Twitter. Yeah, so this is what has been cooking for some time. Over to you, moderator.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you very much, Ibrahim, for taking off your time this Tuesday and sharing with us about how art can be used as a tool of activism. I want to invite Marcos for one last bit. You also saw him in the beginning where he mentioned to us about the work that UNCCD is doing. I just want to find out if he has also been inspired to find out what artistic features he has within himself and how he's going to be able to put those to the test and use them as he does his work. Marcos, I hope you're still with us.
Yes, Juliet. No, thank you so much to David and Ibrahim. It has been a really amazing webinar, the one that we had today. It's really amazing to see how very talented and people that has a passion can come up with some amazing ideas to bring a message on the need for protecting the environment. I think it's really interesting something that David said. Artists, they take the inspiration from nature. So it makes also sense that the artists bring back again that to the nature by the ways they are doing their art is also a way of raising awareness and making us to protect the land. So I think this makes a lot of sense. I also think it's very important the part that you are moving to. You are thinking how to bring this to some entrepreneurial action, what we can do also with this. And allow me just to have some kind of promotion here. We are organizing with the UNCCD a next webinar, is also with the youth. This webinar will be focusing on job opportunities or sustainable job opportunities for young people in Africa. This will take place on the 19th of November, and we are really lucky to have with us for that opportunity for the 19th of November, the Prime Minister of Togo, Ibrahim, and our land ambassador, Baba Mal, that they will be discussing with some young entrepreneurs from Africa, and they will be showing what they have been doing and also looking at the challenges and the difficulties that we may face. So there will be opportunities for for young people on the land. So that will be on the 19th of November. I think I will finish here. It has been really amazing. I'm sure everybody enjoy, and thank you so much, David and Ibrahim, for these inspiring words of what you have been doing. And again, Juliet, thank you so much for moderating in such a nice and kind way this webinar.
Thank you very much, Marcos, for taking off your time. I know your schedule is very busy and always fully packed. You having to mobilize and organize a civil society unit and work with different NGOs under UNCCD, and you being here with us young people and always pushing us to actively engage with the civil society and to always have our voices put out there. As we conclude, I want to thank my amazing audience for taking off your time and joining us today, for sending in your questions, for your wonderful contributions, and for following us from the beginning. We've had 6 amazing webinars, and since the beginning, you've always been with us. You've followed us until now that we are concluding with this last one. Just a reminder, we are just starting. This is just one of the series where we'll be engaging with different young people under the UNCCD Youth Caucus, where we'll be bringing different minds to actually be a part of the conversation, to share their ideas, to share about their work. Like Marcos has mentioned, do join us on that 19th of November as we discuss sustainable jobs for the youth in the land sector. What does that look like? We often say, oh, young people do not have access to land. But here we are, we'll be having some of these questions answered on the 19th. So make it a point to join us on the 19th as we go into that webinar. As I close us off, for me, my key takeaways have been 3 things. David mentioned, how do you capitalize the wow? For him, when he saw litter, he's like, oh, how do I turn trash into gold? And whoever sees the art that he's doing, they're inspired and they want more out of it. That's now why you're seeing that UNDP back in Zambia is now supporting his work. That's why now you see he's creating more young people to also. The other thing that I took away from Ibrahim, usually creatives have Ibrahim and David come out and tell you, no, as artists, we also can contribute to the conversation to change the status quo. Do not forget, we are using art to inspire. So let our imaginations run wild. Let us use everything around us to be able to change our world. Until next time, I've been your host, Juliet Grace from the UNCCD Youth Caucus. Join us and follow us on Facebook, on Twitter. We are at UNCCD Youth Caucus on all our socials. Bye for now.